Hi guys, my name is Marcel and you're here because... Come on, we all know why you're here. I've made a 5-minute tutorial on drawing a male face with my method, but you guys kept asking for a grill version. So today, from the beginning till the end, I'm going to give you the exact same tutorial, just with a female face. Now, even though the tutorial part of this video is just around about 5 minutes, please take your time and pause the video or reduce the playback speed when you're struggling with a certain part. That's fine, this is a beginner tutorial after all, and drawing anime grills can be hard. You mean anime girl, right? No, definitely says grill. Nah, pretty sure they meant grill. So, let's take a look at our art supplies. You know, all the art supplies, paper, eraser, and so on. But what I always think is really helpful are two different pencils. A light pencil to draw all the guidelines and a darker pencil to draw all of the details. That way your guidelines are less visible and your details stick out a lot more. Don't worry, you can always just use any basic pencil out there, but this is just a tiny detail that can improve your art a lot. So you can use a regular pencil, a mechanical one, whatever you have lying around at home. Now, another tip that's not sponsored, by the way, would be an eraser pen. That one's always such a saving grace when it comes to erasing details with eyes, for example. Pretty sure you guys know the struggle. But do not worry, because you really only need the basics. I just wanted to enlighten you in case you're wondering about the art supplies that I'm gonna be using. As always, they are all linked on my art supply list on my website in case you are curious. But now, let's go ahead and start drawing grills. Before we start out, do yourself a favor and do not draw your artwork on a 1x1 inch space. You have your whole paper available and you should definitely make use of that. And just so that you know what we'll be doing, we'll be blocking in everything at first, just so that you get all of the proportions correct, and details come right after we're done with that. So, first and foremost, the dreaded circle for the head. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it's a base for your drawing after all, so it still needs to look at least decent. And in case you really struggle here already, I actually made a tutorial on drawing a circle. So, we good? Next up, you obviously need to split the face in half, just so that your drawing's gonna be symmetrical. This guideline's actually also very helpful when it comes to more difficult perspectives, but for now, it's just gonna help you out with staying symmetrical. And now, in order to complete the whole face shape, you now have to connect the circle with this guideline. I always like to draw grills' faces just a tad shorter than male ones. Maybe this measurement could help you out. Round about 1/4 sounds about fine to me. Also, make sure the jawline's symmetrical as well. Draw a guideline in case you're really not sure, because I can't stress just how important the base of your face is. And speaking of guidelines, the only ones missing are the ones for your eyes, so that they are on the same height. My method to figure out where this guideline actually goes is always to use round about double the height of the chin. And that's why I told you that face proportions are important, because if your chin is off, so will be your eyes and then everything else. Okay then, let's start with the hardest part, drawing grilly eyes. I'm always adding additional guidelines here so that both eyes are going to have the same height later on. Now, of course, if you want to go full anime, you can just space them further apart. That way your eyes are getting bigger, but I usually like to draw eyes a bit slimmer than that, even for grills. Again, you should take your time to circle in the eyes and make sure they have the same proportions and placement. So, don't blame me if they are off later on. This is the point where you decide how precise you're getting. For the nose, we are doing something different. Add a triangle between your eyes and make sure it's not going further than your base circle goes. But why a triangle? Well, that's a thing especially in modern anime, where you're adding a highlight to the bridge of the nose. I really like the way this looks because it still looks subtle enough to not look weird. So that's why I'm adding it to my drawings as well. Now, the last thing missing would be a mouth. For that, you just add another triangle to the bottom part of the face. What's important here, though, are the dimensions. Maybe you already noticed how female features in anime are always a lot more petite looking. Same thing goes for the mouth, obviously. What I want to say is just make sure not to draw this triangle too big. We're not drawing Kirby here. Also, I know this tutorial is about faces, but I always like to add at least a hint of a body, because floating heads always look kind of weird to me. You should be good with just a tube and a very flat triangle for the shoulders. Let's also block in the hair, and then we're finished with the blocking in stage. For the hair, I decided to go for something very simple so that you can block it in with the most basic of shapes. Of course, if you're confident enough, you can always go for a different hairstyle. Okay, let's go from the biggest to the smallest part and start out with the hair in the back. And once that's done, we can also add bangs, also really easy. I'll just use the upper guideline that we used to draw the eyes for that. But let's get a bit more detailed though. I'm also going to add a parting here as well. And that's it. That was the last step before we get into the details. Meaning this is the last chance to correct any proportions before we're getting detailed. And if you're now confident enough, let's erase all of the guidelines so that we can finally start getting detailed with everything. And don't worry if you happen to erase over some lines. The most important thing is that you can still kind of assume where everything goes later on. For details, I'm going to switch to my darker pencil now. If you don't have one, just stick to your regular pencil. Okay, let's start with the mouth. For that, I'm just adding 2 dots and then I connect them. And then, well, just draw the rest of the mouth. Just be sure to keep it soft and round. I also always like to add a row of teeth to the inside of the mouth so it doesn't look as empty. And now after that, we can progress to the nose. Like I said before, most anime girls have a really petite nose, so just hinting at it with a dot or a little stroke does the trick. And you can also darken the lines of the highlight on the nose a bit more if you want. Now for the eyes, you're usually thickening the upper and the outer part. The bottom part's gonna be very slim and the inner part's usually going to get erased anyway. Okay, I know most people out there are going to struggle with this part. Eyes are always the hardest bit for beginners. I'm always starting with the pupil and then I'm proceeding to draw the iris. And after that, you just have to add a little highlight. Like I mentioned before, just take your time with this if you're struggling. You could also get a bit more detailed with the eye. You could just add some lashes, for example. Or something that I also like to do is adding some wrinkles in order to hint at the eyeball. You can just do that at the point where your guidelines used to be. Finish it up with the eyebrow and repeat the same process to the other half of the face. Okay, in order to give this character a softer look, I'd recommend to soften the face shape a bit. That also goes for the rest of the body, by the way. And speaking of the rest of the body, you can get really creative with clothing here. However, I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to add a random shirt and bra. And collarbones are something that you could add regardless of clothing. With the hair, you want to keep the actual shape, but you just want to modify it in a way that it looks a bit more detailed. So what I'm going to do is to add a single hair strand to this hairstyle. What's important is the way that you're drawing them. Don't make the beginner mistake of drawing hair slowly and carefully. Just actually draw it with some momentum. And there you go. If you want to keep it safe, just add some hair here and there. But I'm just freestyling here, so I'm adding some bangs to the sides here as well. For the finishing touch, let's add some shading, because to me this drawing's still a bit too empty. I like to shade by using the flat side of the pencil here. And now I hope this has worked out for you. And if you want to get into more drawing stuff, like drawing faces or maybe things like bodies, etc., you might enjoy my book on that topic. It's called Draw Like a Mangaka and it basically works the very same way my videos do. Or just, well, watch my other videos instead. Alright then, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys next time.